so that I can capture tonight's information to also be able to email out to you all so that you can review it again if you have questions or you forget maybe something that was said. Um, but we are so excited to see our students back at Dover High School. And even though it's only going to be 2 days a week that we see you, that is 2 days more than we have been able to see students since March the 13th. And when you are a teacher or an educator and you know that you've been put on the planet to hang out with children all day long, unfortunately, this past 9 months has been really difficult for us. And so we are happy that you are choosing to come back into the school building. We promise that we have done an exorbitant amount of work to make sure that you have a great experience, and we are going to try to make it as normal as it can possibly be. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and get started. And Ms. Solomon, you can chime in anytime you want to tonight. So the first thing we're going to talk a little bit about is operations, and then we're going to talk about instruction, and then we're going to talk about all the things that some of our freshman parents probably don't know, like where the drop-off line is, or how does my child get on a bus. So there is a lot of pieces to this puzzle. So starting with operations, I want to just showcase what our capacity is for hybrid. Some of you may be on that intended to not send your child, and after today you think, okay, like this sounds like a better idea than I thought. So let me just give you some background on how we decided how we were going to cohort our students. So we based our capacity off of multiple factors. The first being the ability to socially distance 6 feet in the classroom. The second is socially distancing in the cafeteria for lunches. And the third is transportation. All three of those things had major impact. But the crazy thing is that all three of those things have pretty much changed since the beginning of time, since we started planning what we were going to do to bring our kids back. So that is how we initially came up with our groups, and we'll talk about some things that have changed since then. At Dover High School, we have gone with what you see in red. It is a 2-cohort hybrid model. We are able to bring back approximately 39% of our students, and right now we are at maximum capacity for that. On each given day, we have 340 students set to come in, Monday, Tuesday being our blue group, and Thursday, Friday being our white group. If our Board of Education or more of our parents come the second semester want to come back and we have to stay hybrid, we could expand to 3 or 4 cohorts, like some of the other schools in our area. But that would require us to decrease the number of days we would see our students. And so right now, the way it has worked out is that our students will be able to come in for 2 full days of school, which is different than many of our counterparts around us. So I know we might not have moved as fast as other people, but I feel like we've planned it and we have a solid plan to make sure our students get as much exposure face to face. So with regards to spacing, this is one of those things that based upon the science and the research and the CDC guidelines and the Division of Public Health here in Delaware, spacing has always been one of those things that we've tried to get a really good grasp around what the rules are. It's also something that happens to change sometimes when you think of who is a close contact in the event that someone should test positive. So although a minimum of 3 feet with a mask can mitigate the risk of the spread of the COVID virus, at least 6 feet is optimal. What you will see in all of our settings, all of our classrooms are set up with a 6 feet distance. We could have done 3 feet, but we chose to limit it to 6 feet because we know that sitting in a mask all day long is really difficult for adults and really difficult for students. And so in the event that a student's mask does drop below their nose, or in the event that students have their book bag, they're going to have their laptop, we wanted to give them as much personal space as possible in a safe setting. So we have stuck with the 6 feet option in all of our classes. For most of our classes, that means we can fit about 15 students. There are some classrooms that are bigger, but there are also some classrooms that are smaller. And so outside of each of our classrooms is a maximum occupancy sign. Our teachers are familiar with it. And that includes students, and then of course one or in some cases, more than one staff member. DPH has updated the way they consider a close contact. If you're not familiar with the contact tracing process, that's something that DPH does, but we have to be compliant in that process. And so if a person tests positive, anyone that had been within 6 feet of them for more than 15 minutes over a period of 24 hours would be considered a close contact. And this is something that has been revised over time. Originally, when we started this planning process, as long as you had a mask on and you were within outside of 6 feet of that person, you were not considered a close contact. But they have since updated that based off of the science and research that's been happening. So again, that's more than 15 minutes, and that's not necessarily one time of 15 minutes. That's actually over a full day's period. So if you came in contact with someone over the course of a full day and it added up to over 15, that would be a close contact situation. So I want to start talking about some screener protocols as students return. The first is that entry will be at all doors as it normally is. Our bus riders come through our back doors, our car riders will come through the front doors, and our walkers will be able to enter any door that would be open, which would be our front, our back, our east, and our west. The Capital School District has a student health screener, which has been provided to all of you in your hybrid letter. If you were added hybrid after the fact, you may not have received that as a hard copy, so we could definitely provide it for you, but I'm going to review it in just a moment. We ask that daily, you as a family, and I know many of our students are older and they can do this on their own, just conduct a wellness check. Everybody wakes up in the morning and say, how am I feeling today? But those questions are very specific and guided. And it sounds kind of silly, but after having done it so many months, it just becomes a routine after time. It also makes you really assess how you're feeling. I know as a teacher, we come into school all the time when we don't feel the best. And so we just have to be cognizant of, if we don't feel well, don't stress yourself to come here because you have a test that day, which a lot of our kids do. They will come to school sick because they don't want to miss what's happening in school, or they don't want to miss an athletic event. And so this is the school year where that can't be a thing. So that screener is super important for you to review every morning. Students will be marked present and will have to check into additional areas through the visitor sign-in sheet in offices and sign-in. So if a student leaves their classroom and let's say goes to the main office because their parent dropped something off, they would have to be checked into the main office. If a student ends up going into the guidance suite, they will be checked into the guidance suite. We have to track every place our students go throughout the day. Because of that, there will be significant movement limitations within our building. So our students will tell you sometimes it was hard to tell, is class going on? There's lots of kids in the hallway. People seem to be moving back and forth. That will not be a thing this year. The students will be remaining in their classrooms, and unless it is an emergency situation, they will really not be given passes to go places, to see other teachers, to run errands, or anything of that. So this is the screener that the Capital School District is providing to our families. We ask that you just personally answer the following questions. In the past 14 days, have you been near a person who has a lab confirmed case of COVID-19, or have you had direct contact with their mucus or saliva? In the last 48 hours, have you had any of the following symptoms? A fever above 100, a new cough, trouble breathing, chills, muscle aches, sore throat, vomiting, diarrhea, loss of smell or taste, nausea, fatigue, headache, congestion, runny nose with no known cause of allergies, because that's a thing, it's allergy season. If you have listed yes to any of those above items, you should not send your child to school today. You can give us a call, send us an email. They can still work from home remotely. They can still be marked present for the day if they have attended the Zoom or at least completed the attendance sheet, the assignment, but we just cannot have them come into our building. We will not be doing this screener with your children when they come in. We will not be taking their temperature. We need your help to make sure that when they come to school, they are feeling well. Some additional considerations, students must stay home if they are exhibiting any of the symptoms of COVID-19, or if they have been confirmed to have COVID-19 or have been instructed by DPH to isolate or quarantine. Again, keep your children home who are sick. Teach them and remind them to wash their hands frequently with soap and running water. They have to wear a mask in the school building. And then again, just basic common sense, covering your nose when sneezing with tissues, coughing inside of the elbow. And of course, it's really hard at any age level, even as adults, but practicing that physical social distancing by staying away from people that are not in your immediate family for at least 6 feet. So our nurses are playing an extremely vital role in our pandemic. I went to school to be an educator, not to be a COVID queen. And sometimes I felt like that's what I have been for the past 6 months. Our nurses, Nurse Sargent and Nurse Ritchie, are our COVID leads in our school building. So a couple of things that you might be wondering. What if a student or staff member becomes ill during the day? If a student or staff member becomes ill during the day, they're going to come to the nurse's suite. If they have a fever, we have an isolation room. If they do not have a fever, they will go to the nurse's triage station to try to figure out what's going on for the day. If there is a positive test that's reported in the middle of the day, for example, you were traveling over Thanksgiving and you came back and you got tested as a precaution. No one was showing any symptoms, so you just did it for fun. And then everybody goes to work, into school, and all of a sudden you get that curative test come back and it says someone is positive. What would happen? You would contact us. Your child will be immediately placed in our isolation room. They will be with an adult. They will not be by themselves. The class that they were sitting in will be relocated to a temporary space so that that room can be deep cleaned. And DPH will make the determination of which students would additionally be contacted as a close contact. So again, determined by our mask protocols, making sure if they were on, was there social distancing, what was the distance, what was the time period. As far as the nurses station go, this is a little picture that kind of shows you some of the changes that you'll see on campus. You'll see in the picture, there is a sticker on the floor. They're all around Dover High School. They'll say, please stand here, please wait here, please sit here, please don't sit here. But when you would walk through that right-hand door, to the left is kind of a shower curtain for privacy. There is a wall thermometer there. That's how students will have their temperature checked, and then they'll proceed from there. For those of you looking for Mrs. Beckman in our attendance office, she has now moved to the 9th grade wing because we had to create an office space in there, recreate the office space into an isolation room.
Dr. Boschel, just by way of some housekeeping items, I noticed that there are some participants who are raising their hands. If you have a question, if you go ahead and type it in the Q&A box, I have been responding live to questions. So please put your question in the Q&A box.
Thank you. So as far as a nurse process when a student needs to be sent home, sometimes this is something we struggle with. We understand parents are at work, the student doesn't drive, there's no one there to be able to pick them up. So the nurse will attempt to call the parent or guardian using all of the numbers and emails available. Shameless plug at this point, please make sure your information we have is accurate. If there was no other need, now is a need with an emergency situation. If the nurse is unable to connect with the parent or guardian, within 30 minutes, the nurse will contact myself or another building administrator. And if I'm unable or my associate principals are unable to connect with the family, I will have to notify the district office. If we're able to connect, but the parent or guardian cannot pick up within 30 minutes, we have to use the following guidelines. If the student is ill enough that would need to be hospitalized, we would call the ambulance immediately, which is our typical protocol. If the student, the question may come up, can a student stay at school until the parent can be picked up? The student would be placed in a room with adult supervision if they're not sick enough to need constant nursing care. Maybe our isolation room, we do have some additional spaces identified as the overflow room where they would be able to be with an adult until they're able to be picked up. So this is a picture as you walk into any one of our classrooms that we're calling the sanitation station. Per guidelines for DPH and the state of Delaware to be open, we have to make sure that we are cleaning high frequency areas and that we have utilized chemicals that are specific to killing the coronavirus, but are also safe to be utilized when we're around humans. So the sanitizing station, as you walk in, has the following items. And in this photo, there is a solution there, a spray bottle solution. We're using a chemical called Maximum Facility Plus. There is a hand sanitizer, a huge gallon, more than a gallon, it feels like, of hand sanitizer. Our teachers do have masks on hand that are disposable in the event that a child would need to change their mask during the day. Maybe it would get wet for whatever reason. We do have gloves in a classroom, tissues, paper towels at least. Some classrooms also have wipes, particularly our business classrooms. And there are some other specialized areas. For example, our piano lab has wipes in it to wipe down the keyboard. So as far as student desks go, time will be allocated at the end of the period, approximately 5 minutes, maybe a little more as we start, for the teacher to spray down the desks and the chairs, and the students will wipe their own space after 1 minute. As they exit the room, they will dispose of the paper towel. So another thing that we want to talk about today is mask breaks. So I mentioned that you have to have your mask on at all times during the school day. And but we understand that it is hard to be in a mask all day long. And so what we have asked our teachers to do is to plan for a mask break each period. Mask breaks can be no longer than 5 minutes each hour or period. And some staff members are planning to do them outside. I know that it might get a little chilly here in the next couple of months, but outside is preferable to reduce the spread of anyone that may have the COVID virus and be asymptomatic. So it would also, provide the kids some fresh air, some exercise, all that good stuff. And so what we are probably going to be seeing is students that are remotely learning the day. They'll be on that Zoom for the beginning of the class period. And then once students would start that asynchronous time, they would allow a mask break so that the students may go outside, take a walk around the building, or some staff members may do it right in their classroom. Teachers do have the ability to open their windows. We have asked that they not keep their windows open because of the way our state-of-the-art air conditioning and heating system works. If the windows are left open, that shuts down. So we want to make sure that our air is constantly circulating, but they do have the ability to open them for short snippets of time. And of course, children are going to be able to remove their masks when they're eating breakfast and lunch. Again, I know that's very difficult because we're older and we're used to being able to just have snacks in our bag and be able to eat when we want. But removing your mask to eat has to be a very structured time, and we have to know who you're around in the event that someone should test positive, and we have to be able to contact you. So I wanted to show this lovely video. It's a little cheesy, but it's a video that we created to help showcase what this will look like for our students. You'll also get a little bit of a sneak peek of what our classrooms look like as far as what will the students be doing as we sanitize at the end of the class period. So Dr. Pinkett played the teacher today. Mrs. Solomon and Officer Stevenson played our students.
Okay, class, we had a great class today. If you could stand up and step away from your desk, please, and gather all of your materials.
As you know, that the cleaning solution should be on the tables for approximately 1 minute before it would be wiped dry.
hold on to your paper towel for a minute while we're still waiting.
Okay, we're gonna say 1 minute has passed. You can go ahead and wipe down your space.
And please throw your paper towels in the trash can.
Beep. That'll be signaling the class is over. Okay, so like I said, a little cheesy, but you get the point. And you can see how our desks are allowing for social distancing. So we did keep 2 desks together so that the students would have more than enough room to put their books and laptop on both of those desks, 1 chair per 2 desks. And then they would also have enough space to be able to clean and just have that personal space while they're in the classroom. We have shared with our teachers some things to get the process taught in their classroom of maybe pre-ripping off the paper towels like we showed in the video. There's also a different way where instead of directly spraying the desks and chairs, teachers can actually spray the paper towels and kind of create a wet wipe, if you will. So it's really going to be based off of the teacher preference and what works the best for the class. All right. So this is a picture of our visitor sign-in. Very simple if you're not assigned to the classroom. Again, the district is required to provide, should we be asked, contact trace information. We do not do the contact tracing. We just have to provide the names of people that may have interaction with the person or persons that are positive. Teachers will hold on to their daily sign-in sheets until they're asked for it in the event that we would need it. As far as bathroom and office passes go, this was a slide that we had shared with our staff, and I just felt like it was fine to share with you all as well. Students may be wondering, what will this look like? So again, limiting movement. We will be using disposable labels that students will write bathroom on. They'll stick it on their shirt. They'll go to the bathroom. They'll pull it off and they'll throw it out so that we can at least identify where students are going, to the bathroom, to the nurse, potentially to another office. But really, again, limiting that movement and limiting the need of using the clipboards, which we were trying to get away from anyway, because that was just a nightmare of kids traveling around with them and going into the bathroom with the clipboard. As far as school counselor appointments go, they are asking that you continue to make those appointments through their online scheduler in Schoology. They will not be taking walk-in appointments unless a student is in a crisis. As far as building-wide cleaning protocols go, I did want to acknowledge that our custodians have been doing a tremendous job since March. During the school day, they have high-frequency checklists in place. We've had that in place since July 1st. Every 2 hours minimum, they have to initial the spaces in which they go to, the restrooms, the elevator, the stairwell, faculty spaces, the doorknobs to all of our offices and classrooms are being continuously cleaned a minimum of every 2 hours. After hours, at the end of the day, the custodial staff will be using what you see in the picture here. These are electromagnetic sprayers. They are the same thing. One is just a handheld gallon, and the other is a 5-gallon tank, I believe, 3 or 5 gallon tanks. So it's just the amount of space they can cover at one time. The chemical in here is the same chemical we clean with during the day, but there is some fancy chemical reaction that happens in the electromagnetic sprayer that allows the spray to almost spread and create a film over everything that it touches. And it immediately will kill that virus. We will not be using these during the day while students are present in a space. They would be used after hours once our staff has vacated for the day. Typical classroom cleaning, such as trash emptying, floor sweeping, reloading of all of the hand sanitizer and needs that would be on that tray, will also be done after hours. As I mentioned, there are some special areas with personalized plans. Our STAR wing, which is our student transition to adult readiness KCCS satellite program, has been here already for the past couple of weeks. They've been doing a great job. Their staff, shout out to our STAR staff. They've really done a wonderful job bringing our kids back in. So there are some personalized plans there. There are some high medical needs in that wing. So we are very empathetic and cautious about what we're doing during the day. Our PE department has additional plans in place because we do want the students to be able to play and interact with the materials that we have, but we have to make sure we can sanitize them. So they have their own spraying system. Like I mentioned, the performing arts has their own needs with disinfecting instruments. Our wellness center is up and running. And so they've also been here through the summer. So they have their own protocols. Our pre-K classes are able to, they've also been coming in. We have our 4-year-olds here. So they have their own cleaning protocols. And of course, Mr. Turner's been crushing it with our athletics since the beginning of the summer. And he has been doing his own cleaning protocols in our athletic arenas. So shout out to Mr. Turner and all of our coaches that have done a tremendous job so far this fall season. So lunch, students will eat in their third period classroom. So this is probably the thing that we most recently changed. I'm not gonna lie, we've been hashing this out all day. What is this going to look like? So with the way they're considering close contacts and also the governor's concern of 50 or more gathered in a space, we felt it would be most safe for students to eat in their third period classroom. Our lunches will continue to be provided free to all of our students daily as they have been. And students may pack their own lunch as always, but there will be no means of heating anything up. So everything will have to be cool. Students will be allowed to remove their their masks at their desks, stay 6 feet apart. And as soon as students are done eating, they should be putting their masks back on. The teacher or other staff member supervising will be masked and will be staying 6 feet away from the students while they are not masked. We ask that students be responsible for washing their hands and using the hand sanitizer before and after they eat, and of course, disinfecting their desk or table and chair after their meal. This is a picture of our current state of affairs in our cafeteria. There will be some classes that do eat in the cafeteria. For example, some of our CTE labs and our Arts Academy classes that are just not conducive to students eating in there. So we will have one of two things happen. Students will either have their lunch delivered to them or they will come through the line, and you'll see in these photos, we've got a cold line and a hot line. So not a whole lot of choice outside of that. And students will come through. They will no longer have to type in their ID number. They will just come right through, and the cafeteria staff will let them go and sit down or return to their classroom. We are still working on that plan of delivery. This has been a question that has come up probably a lot from our teaching staff. What happens if a student doesn't have a mask or refuses to wear one? So masks will be provided to our students who may have forgotten theirs. I get it, they're gonna forget it. We have disposable masks available on our bus or at our own doors. We are not really in a position to be able to give your child a mask every day. So we are suggesting that you guys, stock up on 4 masks that your child can survive in for the day. So, and maybe bringing in 2 a day in case one, maybe after lunch, it gets a little funky. They might want to change their mask up. We will be teaching mask expectations and following them consistently. Our athletes have been doing this. They've been doing a wonderful job. Very little issue. Definitely no one being just point blank defiant about wearing the mask. It's just sometimes annoying. But according to, if a behavioral concern becomes a thing, if it's no longer a mistake and it's on purpose and it's just defiance, we will follow our student success guide as we do with other behavioral concerns. Students who are consistently, defiantly refusing to wear a mask despite multiple interventions will be referred back to remote learning. We just cannot risk the safety of everyone else in the building. I will say, and I've shared this with my staff, during summer school, this was a non-issue. Right now during athletics, this is really a non-issue. So I feel like people are realizing the severity of wearing the mask. And so I'm hopeful that that will just continue as students return on the 30th. So let's talk a little bit about instruction. We are going to change our bell schedule to accommodate hybrid learning. Again, this is a recent change that we brainstormed on this week. And so I want to kind of talk you through a student example. We're going to pretend it's Monday. And so the blue group will follow the Monday schedule face-to-face, and the white group will be following the schedule of the Zoom times. And so if you look at our schedule, a couple things that have been updated. Senator Up will only happen on Mondays. And so we've taken some of that time back and put it in second period. We have adjusted passing time in between classes to 10 minutes. In our hallways, we've had to create one-way traffic, including our stairwells. So we are going to allow students more time so that they can get to their classes and not feel rushed and out of breath as they're wearing a mask. You'll also see that the Zoom times have been adjusted to provide some settling in time for students that are face-to-face. As they come in, they're able to sanitize, they're able to get their stuff set up, their laptop out. It's also going to give our teachers time to be able to let the kids in on the Zoom that will be zooming into that class for the synchronous learning. So again, what you see in the column under class time will be what the students in our building are following. And then the column under Zoom time will be what the students at home are following. Lunches, again, will be determined by social distancing. So you'll see that 30 minutes is still there for lunches. But again, many of those students will be eating in their classroom. They will not be working and eating unless they choose to do so. They will get a 30-minute break from school. And again, some, classes may, pair that with a walk around the building or whatever that might look like. This is probably going to be the one thing that's just taking some time to get used to. I do want to say out loud that while we want kids to be prompt and we want them to be to class on time, we are giving grace for kids that are coming back to school in this looking a lot differently. The 10 minutes, though, isn't built in for social hour, even though we want kids to connect, but we can't gather in groups in the hallway anymore. You have to be 6 feet apart. Otherwise, we're going to be moving you along. So just, consider why we gave the 10 minutes additional time for passing time, why we pushed back those Zoom minutes, and hopefully everybody, finds some positive in that. So the hybrid classroom structure is something that our teachers have been practicing for the past 3 weeks. What it looks like is we have students in our seats and students on the Zoom. And so I know that this picture might be quite small, but Ms. Spitzmiller is our instructional coach, and she's right here with her computer, and she's talking to kids on the Zoom, while there's also students, AKA some of our teachers in professional learning. And everyone, whether they're on the computer or they're in the classroom, is able to see with what Ms. Spitzmiller is doing on her smart board. So when she is hooked up, everything she's doing, everyone can see. Some of our teachers have gotten really good at also using their document cameras. So then they're able to actually have the kids on the computer see the kids in the classroom, and they're able to communicate. So it does take a little getting used to as a student, especially if you're the one on the computer. But the teacher is able to get into a habit of communicating with all students. And so I'm really excited to see how this can maybe help engage some of our Zoom classes where our kids tend to keep their cameras off and not say a whole lot. So laptop expectations is that Dover High School is now a one-to-one building, meaning every child at Dover High School will be issued a Chromebook, and they will keep that Chromebook for their 4 years while they're here. The laptop should come with you daily to school. They will be used in every class. They should be charged at the beginning of the day. We do suggest you bring a charging cord with you in case you need to charge during the day, although this is really very limited need because the batteries are brand new and should last the entire day. Student laptop carriers are on order. So at this time, we're just asking that you make sure your child has a backpack or some type of something to carry their laptop in to protect it from weather as needed in the meantime. If you need a laptop, you don't have a laptop, you have a laptop question, your laptop doesn't work, your laptop is still from Central Middle School, Mr. Ron Berry is my laptop king. So his email is there, or you can call us in our main office, and I apologize, that is a typo. It should be 302-241-2400. So just some continued expectations on the days that you're learning online, or for your peers that are always going to be still online. Our Zooms must be recorded, or at least the content delivery pre-recorded, for students to access all materials at all times. We have heard some feedback from our parents that this is not being consistent. If you have a concern about your child's teacher's Zooms not being available, please contact us directly. Zooms will still be 30 minutes, but they could be extended if appropriate, but they will not go over the class time period. So many times students have come to the Zoom for 30 minutes and then they get off the Zoom, and then it's maybe like I have a 60-minute break, which is really not what it is. You have 60 minutes of work to do. So what you may notice as we come hybrid is many of our teachers are going to leave the Zoom open for the entire 90 minutes so that students that are learning at home will be able to interact with their peers and the teacher at school for that entire class period. They may not always do that, but they always, I would say more than often, that will be the case. Additionally, there may be some times where the Zoom is longer than 30 minutes, and it's really critical for you to stay on. For example, science and labs. If the blue group is here on Monday and Tuesday, they may be doing a lab that you don't have the materials at home to do. And on Thursday and Friday, when the white group comes in, they might do a different lab that you didn't do on Monday and Tuesday, because we keep it moving throughout the week. So sometimes those Zooms and demonstrations will extend 30 minutes now that we have our kids back in the building. Not always, but sometimes. I want to, again, give a plug about attendance. Students are marked present if they are present in the class, like their butt is in a seat here, they're present on the Zoom for that 30 minutes at least, or they have completed the daily attendance assignment by 11:59. I just want to highlight to my parents on the call, the attendance assignment should not be a daily thing. If your child is not attending class and they're not attending the Zoom and they're only doing the attendance assignment, they are more than likely not doing well in the class. The attendance assignment was an option for students that had extenuating circumstances that could not attend class on the Zoom. So please reiterate to them that whether they're face-to-face or they're following the Zoom times, their attendance is critical. We are on a semester block timeline. This is a change for us from last year. We have intentions of continuing the schedule through next year with the unknowns. Most of the positives have been about the fact that students have been consistently only having to worry about 4 classes at a time versus 8. So with that said, though, we have a timeline ahead of us. Holidays coming up, obviously next week, we've got 2 days of teacher professional learning. Students will not be doing any school next week. They'll be on Thanksgiving break. As we come back, we then have the winter holiday, and then we have final exams. Final exams are January 25th and 26th. That's a Monday and Tuesday. The end of the semester is the 27th. That's a Wednesday, which is asynchronous for all students. And the new classes will begin January 28th for quarter 3. Everyone's classes are going to change unless you're in an AP Skinny class. It's critical that in these last 8 weeks, students are all in, attending the Zooms, completing the work, connecting with their teachers. It's not too late to pass, but it is too late to keep procrastinating. One item I did want to mention, just to reiterate why the laptops are so important, we will be limiting handling paper items. Anything we can do digitally will be done digitally. So paper, pencil, activities, homework, newsletters, things that can be done through our computer system will be done digitally, just to prevent any spread, although it might be minimal. We're just trying to really limit the possibility. Grading information, Home Access Center is your primary platform to check student grades. If you're checking Home Access Center and grades are not updated, please contact me. Report cards will not be mailed out this year. We are asking that our teachers communicate with parents through the grade book. Parents would check Home Access Center and see the grades, and then therefore you would already know how your child is doing. So report cards went live on November the 13th, so hopefully you have seen them. I will continue to mail out failure letters and to provide academic suggestions as to how students can get back on track, but we will not be mailing out report cards, and that's been a district-wide decision. So a couple of things, additional information. So this is the virtual replica of our beautiful state-of-the-art building. So when I think of Dover High School, this is the easiest way, particularly if you're a freshman and you missed our tours this past week. So if I'm looking at the front of the building, which would be at the bottom of our screen, our academic building is divided into 3 wings, A, B, and C. If you have a classroom number that starts with a 100, it's the first level, 200 is the second level, and 300 is the third level. As you go down Main Street, our cafeteria is on the right. On the left is our F and H wing, which is our CTE, Career Tech, Culinary, Communications Technology, Art, CNA, and our pre-K kiddos are on the end down there. As you wrap around our H wing, ROTC, driver's ed, and some additional CTE classrooms. As you make the U, coming up against around the small gym, the H wing, that's our HVAC classroom or Ag Power, and our animal science, animal lab, environmental science classrooms. And then as you come up on the other side of the large gym is the H wing continued, which is our fitness area, our movement room, our fitness workout area. Across the hall on the opposite side of the cafeteria is the theater. And then we have our Arts Academy wing. That is the basic layout. So one of the things we just need you to do is make sure your child has maybe taken a picture or written down their room numbers when they come into school that first day so that they know what rooms they're looking for. And our staff will point them in the right direction. If you want to come in to see Dover High School and you were unable to make our tours this past Tuesday, next Monday and Tuesday, while you all are off, students, we are still at work. And so we will be open from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. You may come in, sign into our main office, and find your 4 classes. We do ask that you not hang out. A quick run through should be about 30, 40 minutes max. So as you come in, we're just asking that you find your classes and exit campus. So this is our morning drop-off pattern, particularly for our car riders and reminders for everyone else. If you are going to be driving onto campus, even our student drivers, we ask that all car traffic come to the front of Dover High School. So you're going to turn on Dover High Drive, whether you're coming from Route 8 or from the back Cannon Mills, and you're going to make this right here. Students, you will take that first exit into the student parking lot, and car drop-offs will continue on to the front. You will drop off. Our constables will be helping with that process. You'll do a little U-turn and head back out. At this intersection in the morning, we do not allow left-hand turns. It just plugs up traffic. There should be no car rider traffic in the back of our campus. There should also be no drop-offs on this west side. This is for pulling in and parking only. Just a friendly reminder, because every year we have folks that want to change up our traffic pattern, and it just is, it's in place for a purpose. So again, all of our drop-offs should be in the front. If you are in the back, you're going to be in the way of our buses, and it's just a safety hazard. So please follow our traffic pattern. For our bus riders, parents, we have a Where's the Bus app. It has been configured, and we'll be getting information on that to roll out to you. So it's the app where you're going to be able to track where your child's bus is and at what time. So I think that's pretty cool. Buses arrive here at Dover High School as early as 7 o'clock. However, students do not get released off of the buses until 7:05. I know someone had submitted a question, how are students going to be working out on the bus? So when the bus picks your child up, there is a 22-person limit on the bus, and they have to be staggered in the seats. And the bus drivers will explain that. Students from buses will enter through our back doors. They can use the restroom, they can visit their locker, they can socially distance in their hallway near their first period, or they can just go straight into their first period class. If there are transportation concerns that you have, they are coordinated with the district office. You're more than welcome to call our main office and we will try to help you. I will say, if you were added to the hybrid list a little later, please be patient, and you may want to drive your child the first couple of days because the bus system takes a couple of days to get it all worked out. All right, for my student drivers, so we're making a change this year, and I'm hoping I don't regret it, but I think it's going to be okay. We are going to give some grace on the parking permits for this year. So students must have a valid driver's license to park in our student parking lot. That means you cannot be on your driver's permit parking in the student parking lot. You cannot be anticipating your driver's permit and parking in our student parking lot. So just make sure you have actually passed the driver's ed course and you have an actual license. You can park in our student parking lot for this year. We are going to send refunds to any student who has purchased a parking pass for the 2021 school year. Parking will become first serve in our student lot only. So there is some incentive to getting to school on time. Locker process. We will allow students to continue to utilize a locker. Students may request a locker or two from our intervention office. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but we actually have a zillion lockers and our students don't like to use them. But all you have to do is have a combination lock and show Mrs. Negron, and she will give you the locker that you request. Just a thought, I was thinking about this today. Some of our students like to request a locker in the main academic building and in the back of the building, just so that they have a spread of, two places of their classes. I was thinking today, if you're going to pack your lunch, you might want to pick a locker near your third period class. But I don't know, it's up to you. One major change is no eating or drinking or gathering allowed on top of our locker blocks due to social distancing. So if you are going to get breakfast, it has to be eaten in a designated space. You cannot just open up the muffin and chow down with all of your friends in the middle of the locker blocks. I will say that that's going to be a huge thing for us because, again, like I said, our kids are used to bringing their coffee in and, being able to eat and socialize. And we just cannot allow that to happen because of the spread and trying to mitigate the spread of the virus. So again, we're just asking that students don't gather, can't sit on top of, gather around. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's like a hangout. But we have to be really careful about that this year. All right. At this time, that is all that I have. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Mrs. Solomon, are there any questions that were asked that you need me to address before we get off?
I think you answered the majority of everything as you were going through the presentation. I just have a couple more right now in the Q&A box that I'm addressing.
Okay, great. So again, we are super pumped to see you all back on the 30th. Again, if you're in the blue group, you will be starting on November 30th. And if you're in the white group, you will start that Thursday, which I should know this date off the top of my head, but it is December the 3rd. If you don't know what group you're in, email me. My email is right there, courtney.boschel@capital.k12.de.us. If you are concerned because you have a scheduling issue where like you were missing a class and it wasn't a big deal because you were sitting at home, but now you're coming to school and you're not sure where you should go, please contact your school counselor. And other than that, just make sure that when you come back in on the 30th or on the 3rd, you have a copy of where your classes are, so that you don't have to like be scrambling to figure out where you're going to go. Maybe I will see some of you on Monday and Tuesday coming in to find your classes, but if not, we will see you on the 30th and have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Have a great evening.